Okay.
let's go. Yes.
Well, we first met through one of my favorite people in the world, Christina, formerly Rivera, now Christina Glennon. And you probably know this, but just in case you don't, she was employee number 1 at the Honor Foundation going back to 2014. So when the Honor Foundation was just started, the founder hired her, and it was her and I for hours and hours over the first few cohorts together, just learning about veteran transition together. And I've followed her career. You bumped into Christina, I think, in a handful of places. So, welcome to the show.
Thank
and
you.
I'm glad you and I are friends now, friends of friends. But love to hear a little bit about your background.
Yeah, thank you. It is a small world. That's what I always tell people. Yeah. Networking is the most important thing that you could ever do, because you never know who you're going to run into or, need at some point, or leverage. So,
or years later, it kind of makes, it's like, oh, now it makes sense that we met.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. So I'll just jump into a little bit about me, what I do professionally and who I am. So
awesome.
I am Lacey Craig, professionally here at T-Mobile. I am the senior program manager of our military and partnership recruiting team. So what that means is that I actually manage all of our external partnerships with military affiliated organizations that help support our hiring, focuses on both veterans, transitioning service members, and military spouses within T-Mobile. So I support all of TA with their roles. I also run the fellowship program here for both transitioning service members and military spouses. And I brought the military spouse program to T-Mobile 4.5 years ago when I started here. So really built that up. And the background on that, I'll just give you like the abbreviated version. I'm also the daughter of a 38-year serving veteran. So my dad served in the Army for 38 years.
Wow.
32 years of my life was spent supporting his service time. And, I was able to experience that in every stage of life, as a child, as a teenager, as an adult. And when I became an adult and really got started in my career, I worked in field operations for a large organization, and my customers and my employees were a lot, I think probably more than 50% were military affiliated. Oh. And I started volunteering with different veteran service organizations and really trying to understand what the population needed, because I was seeing military spouses like just come through as a revolving door in terms of trying to find employment. I just moved here. I lost my job. I need another job. And I thought, man, this is a systemic problem that needs some support. So that's when I started diving in to do a lot of this work, and made it my personal mission to help support our service members and their spouses. I mean, I saw my mom, I'm going to age myself here, but I think I already did that, saying 32 years of service time. But I saw my mom, as a military spouse in the 90s, early 2000s, where there weren't virtual work options, there weren't support programs. And the things that she sacrificed and gave up that we don't have to have our military spouses do today is really what drives me to do this work. If we can hire one spouse, if we can get one spouse to get the resources they need, it's a win, in my opinion.
Yeah. You, I noticed a tinge of accent. I know you live in San Diego near me, so it's very northern San Diego accent. What
is it? Because I mean, my family's from Ohio, so I probably add in a little Midwestern twang sometimes. Even though I never lived there, I feel like it's hereditary, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, genetic. So, well, first of all, I mean, there's so many things to dig into, but 38 years in the Army, what a career. That's a long time.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's funny. My dad will tell you the story. It's hilarious because so many people are like, I knew I wanted to join the military. My family was in the military. I come from a long line of military. My dad, no. He went on a trip after high school to Alaska with his buddies. They ran out of gas money and gas and all the things. They thought they were going to go find jobs and do all the things, and they didn't. And so my dad's uncle was actually in the Marines. And so my dad went to the Marine recruiting office.
Uh-huh.
And sorry, everyone from the Marines, but your recruiting office was closed. So that's why then he went down to the Army recruiting office and ended up getting recruited or joining the Army from there.
Wow.
My parents were high school sweethearts. So like my dad, I think my parents had just gotten married, and my dad comes all the way home from Alaska and is like, hey, guess what I did? I did a thing. Because you didn't have cell phones back then.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, he joined the military in Alaska, and then was airborne in oh gosh, what is it now in North Carolina? They changed the base name back. It's it'll come to me later.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, so he was airborne very early on in his career, went into retire as an E9 as the command sergeant major out of Los Alamitos in California. So
that's amazing. And I don't often think of Army and Alaska in the same concept.
I know. I mean, I guess
the land invasion is real, you know, the threat.
Yeah. I mean, it got him back to Ohio. So that's the reason that he joined. But I think that, like so many service members, once he joined and got in, he really found like that was his home. That was his place. He made so many friends that he's still friends with today, that he served with. And he really found so much of his purpose when he was in the military that he just, you know, and my dad actually went in twice. So not only did he join the first time, but he actually got out of the military at some point in his career. I don't want to misspeak and quote the year, but then he was like, hey, I miss doing this thing. I'm going to go back in and do it some more. So then he re-enlisted. He re-enlisted and went back in the service.
I hope you told your mom that time.
I mean, I feel like I would have heard about it if he didn't, but I'm not sure she was a super fan at any point, you know, after that many years.
Did you grow up like moving around with him? Were you Army brat kind of experience?
Yeah, so we did, but you know, my parents did a really great job of not relocating us every time. There's pros and cons to that though. I mean, my dad was deployed at one point. His longest deployment was 2 years. Wow. He was gone. So he did his pre-deployment in Washington State, went overseas, I think for 18 months, then came back. But I mean, we did not go with him during that time period. And so like there were a lot of those moments where he was gone for extended period of time where maybe we didn't relocate with him. And that's a whole different dynamic that it adds to the family.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously I hear that in your passion for military spouses, seeing your mom. How did your mom handle that? What was that experience like?
My mom is a rock star. Like my mom is truly like one of the biggest heroes in my life. I love my dad. Don't get me wrong. I feel like he did some really epic stuff in the military, but my mom, like there's not a memory that I have growing up that my mom was not there for. And my mom never alluded to struggling or being alone or not having things figured out. And mind you, we were on the West Coast always with the military, and all of my family's on the East Coast. We didn't have any family support. My mom was always like kind of by herself and having to make new friends and having to adapt to things and taking care of me and my brother. And so I don't ever remember my mom like being stressed out, or I'm sure she was, but she definitely is a warrior and definitely put on that face for us to have as normal of a childhood as possible. She'll tell the story about when one of the deployments my dad went on, I think it was like in kindergarten or first grade. And I get to school because we didn't live on base all the time. So I was the odd kid out a lot of times because I was maybe the only kid in my class who had a parent in the service that was deployed or gone. And so I remember my mom will tell me like, they took me to school the day my dad was leaving for a deployment. And I get to school and I'm like this happy little kid. And my teacher's like, how are you doing today? And I'm like, my daddy's going on a long trip today. And then I was all happy until he went to go drop me off. And he's like, you know, I'll see you in a couple months or whatever. My mom said I just started bawling because it was like the reality of the
Yeah, yeah,
fact that my dad was going to be gone again for so
yeah,
long.
yeah,
But yeah, they did a really good job of trying to make our childhood as normal as possible. I didn't
yeah.
know that I was missing out on certain things
Uh-huh.
until I was an adult. And my dad has been so there for like my daughter who's 21.
Mm,
My dad never missed a thing for
really?
her. Not a thing. Like
Wow.
always there for all the things for her. And I guess I didn't realize until I was an adult all the things
Yeah,
that my mom like played both roles for that
yeah,
my dad wasn't there for.
yeah, yeah. So you got to see your dad be, show up in the way that he would have showed up if he
Oh
wasn't
yeah.
in employment. Yeah,
Oh yeah, 100%. Like my
that's cool.
daughter's his only grandchild, so
Yeah. Oh
yes,
yeah.
he got to do all the things with her.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, I I just know too, obviously not dating you, but your experience as a kid with your dad on deployment, that's before FaceTime, that's before Skype, and and it's, apples to oranges comparison. But I just curious how you feel like that has shaped you as an adult. Obviously, you've chosen to stick close to the community and do your part for the community. But how do you kind of make sense of, your past linked to who you are today?
I think this is a really interesting question because I talk to a lot of our military spouses that I work with today about this. Because yeah, we did not have the technology and access to direct communication growing up. So it could
Yeah.
be weeks or a month before I'd hear from my dad. And I think there's like pros and cons to that,
Hmm.
honestly, because I do remember vividly as a child writing letters, and me and
Mm.
my mom and brother would go and we would drop them off. So my dad was military intelligence. So
Okay.
they were very selective about the information you
Yeah.
could send or receive.
Yeah.
And so they screened our letters
Hmm.
to him and the communication that we were receiving back and forth. And I
And you knew that?
remember going, well, I know that as an adult, but I
Yeah.
know now, I knew as a kid that we'd have to take our stuff, our letters to my dad to a certain place.
Uh-huh.
They would ship them off. And then
Uh-huh.
whenever we got mail, we would go pick it up.
Hmm.
It wasn't coming directly to the house.
Okay.
And so, it was weird though, because I do remember as a kid, like it was an exciting time to hear from me. Like when you got those
Yeah.
letters,
Yeah.
it's like story time for
Yeah.
all week, with mom reading those to us
Yep.
or whatever. So it was a different kind of excitement and experience, I think, than that um, gratification that you could get today from maybe a
Uh-huh.
video call or a text or a call,
Yeah.
which I know is not always possible
Right.
with our military families. But it was like I didn't know any different because we didn't
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
access to anything different. But it was like I got to tell him all the things, my dance recitals and all the things going on. And then it was anticipating that response from him. That was so cool. And then even as an adult, my dad was deployed, you know, let's see, I was 32 when he retired. So
Uh,
even as an adult in my 20s and 30s, I would send my dad care packages and I would
No
send
way.
stuff for the entire unit. And
Huh.
yes, because he would tell me stories about some of his younger soldiers that maybe didn't have family or didn't
Mm.
have support. And I worked for a big coffee company at the time. So I'd
Uh-huh.
ship tons of coffee to
Yeah.
them because we all know that the coffee that you get in the MREs is like very different. I'll
Yeah.
just say it's very
Yeah. Yeah.
different than what you could get shipped.
Yeah.
And so I think that it was a different experience, but it wasn't something that I look back on and say like, oh, I have hurt feelings about it or I feel a
Yeah.
certain way about it. But I will tell you that as an adult, I feel like I have been able to get to know my dad in his
Mm.
service time a lot better than as a kid,
Mm.
because I think what a lot of people don't maybe recognize or think about is that when you're born into a military family like that, my
Yeah.
dad was obviously in the service before I was born. That's the life that I never knew anything different than.
Mm.
And so the conversations around the dinner table were never about my dad's service
Huh.
or about where he just came back from or what he did or what was going on. It was exciting for us when we got to go visit him and got to go to like the Christmas parties or
Yeah.
family days or something
Yeah.
like that. But I never understood how special it was
Mm.
or what that experience was until I was an adult and started looking at it, I guess, through the lens of different experiences and different
Yeah.
people I would talk to. I feel like what's really cool about where I'm at today is I get to offer that perspective. I had a friend who's a military spouse talk to me about her daughter is 4 and her husband is deployed all the time. They're
Mm.
looking at relocating closer to family, but that would mean he wouldn't see her as much.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
she consulted me about like, what do you think the impact would be on my kid as a military kid?
Wow.
And it's cool to be able to go back and say, your kid's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Your daughter's
Yeah.
going to be okay, because there's not going to be a lack of love and support and communication. And honestly, there will be a level of respect that's gained as she gets older.
Yeah.
If you talk about what this means and explain, Dad's away doing this. It's not because he doesn't want to be here. And those are the conversations me and my dad have today is like, Dad, what does that mean to you? And what were you doing when you weren't at my dance recital? Like, what were you doing?
I love that because, you know, parents have the capacity to shape that narrative and help the understanding for a kid, and how special it is. Like, your dad's or your mom is not off pushing papers or having fun because they don't want to be around. They're actually doing something extraordinarily sacrificial and special for the world. I mean, I think that's a beautiful thing. That's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
So your career-wise, which came first? Were you like out of the gates, I want to do something with the military community and look for ways to do that? Or is this just like, you just can't help yourself everywhere you go?
No, so honestly, I think because my experience was like, yes, I'm part of this community. I didn't really have like a desire to do anything different or understanding that like everyone's experience wasn't my experience. And just because I was so acclimated to it because it was what I lived my whole life, that doesn't mean everybody has that same shared experience. And so I didn't really immerse myself in this until it was when my dad was deployed after 9/11. He was gone for almost 2 years at that point. And, you know, he would talk about, I think that it was, I won't use names, but there was someone specific that was a spouse of one of his soldiers that was just really mentally struggling with being by themselves and just kind of like trying to navigate this life. They were newlyweds. She was a new military spouse. And I remember my dad asking me and my mom to just like take her out to lunch or spend time with her, just reach out to her, see if she's okay. And just sitting down in that conversation, it was like very eye-opening to me that there's a lot that I missed in this community, like just having my own experience that people are going through. And so then that's when I started volunteering regularly. So I would do homecomings with the USO. Because I worked in an industry where, well, it was with Starbucks at the time. And so I was the district manager and I ran the market outside of, Miramar and, Camp Pendleton. And so we would open up our stores to community days. We partnered with organizations like Blue Star Families, and we would just do military spouse connection and community days. And that's when I really started seeing like, we need to do more. We have a responsibility, every single one of us, to support our service members and their families. So we would do game night for kids. We would do holiday events, these kind of things. And so that's when I really got immersed in it, is volunteering first. And then I thought, man, I could do more than this. So then I started doing like resume workshops and job readiness, job preparedness, all of these things for military spouses. And I remember going to a seminar and sitting with service members, and I was so intimidated because these service members have so much experience to bring to the table. And they were asking me for help. And I remember in that moment thinking, man, we are not doing a good job as a society in helping our service members be ready for work after the military. And so that's when it just kind of continued to expand. So I'd volunteer my time at transition courses and you know, do different webinars and really try to help understand how I can support matching career to
Yeah.
candidate.
Yeah.
And then made it my mission to make it my job.
Now, okay, so speaking of that, like tell me more about your mission, like this conspiracy that you're on everywhere you go, because that's the track record you have, is like everywhere you go, you're just like, hey, what if we did this? And I don't know, it's like you're borrowing and stealing resources to put together. So how do you think about all that?
Yeah, it's true. I think I always try to stay curious and never pretend to know everything all the time, and
Yeah.
understand that everybody's situation is different. And so for me, my big mission is understand what point of intersection we can help. And sometimes that means it's not them getting hired with me
Yeah.
or with our company, because maybe we don't have the location or the role match or whatever,
Yeah.
but how can I support them, introducing them to another company or another hiring manager, helping them with their resume? Um, it's even so much as pointing them in the direction of resources.
Yeah.
So I'm also on the board of advisors for Veterans Legal Institute here in California.
Cool.
And, I've had different service members reach out to me about discharge upgrades or different things with benefits, different VA resources, nonprofit resources. So I think for me, my big mission is understand, even if it's the smallest thing, one conversation, one point of connection, what can I do to try to enhance that service member or military family member's life, to help them get to ultimately where they want to go? Because I can't solve all the problems, but if
Yeah.
I can do one thing and be that point of support in that moment for that person, that's what I aim to do.
Given your exposure to all these different efforts, programs, companies, employer side, on base side, like what is your sense of what's either missing right now in the whole flow of transition, or what do you wish you could see that just there's not enough yet?
This is such a great question. I'm like, how much more time do we have? Well, I think that a lot of things have come about that are getting better. So I do think that as a structure, even from the government programs and support, it's getting better. There's higher awareness of military spouse and employment, how we can support them. What I would love to see, and what I think that we're really missing, is that private sector support in terms of employers, hiring managers with a level of awareness and understanding and time. Because if every single company and every single hiring manager took 15, 30 minutes of their time once a quarter, even to interview a service member or do a MAC interview or interview a military spouse candidate without disregarding their application because they're going to move again or because they need to be remote. I think that we need to do better as individuals in the workforce of supporting our military candidates. And a lot of times, what people don't understand is that by employing military spouses, you are actually supporting the service member, because if that service member can actively take their time to search for a role, interview, get placed with the right company with sustainable employment, and not feel rushed to get the first job post-service because they have to support their family,
security,
you're actually supporting the military community more than you think by giving that military spouse that sustainable employment, because it's helping the entire military family. And if more employers did that, guarantee you we would have more sustainable work and retention for our military spouses, less food insecurity. It's all systemic, right?
That is that's a huge insight. I would never connect those dots. Thank you for that. Would you give me your pitch for hiring a military spouse? Like why take a look at them? All things considered, let's say they're not going to be moving around, like just what's the value, what's the asset that we're looking at?
Yeah, for sure. Even if they do move around, I will tell you, we have a military spouse that we hired a couple years ago that did her interview sitting her computer on a cardboard box on the floor in the middle of a new apartment that she was moving into because she was PCSing with her kids in the background, reading a book, and she nailed that job, and she's been one of the best employees we've ever had. So what I would tell you is that military spouses are going to be one of the highest educated, highly resilient, committed, dedicated population that you will ever hire. And I'll go
Wow.
toe to toe with anyone that wants to argue with me on that, like 100%, because I have never met a military spouse that, even if there is a gap in experience or skill set, that didn't say, what course, can I sign up for, or what direction can I go into upskill or up level myself? They are super grateful, so dependent or dependable on, like, as an employee. You're never going to find somebody that is more dedicated to you once you help them get their foot in the door. And they're not asking for handouts. They're just asking for consideration of evaluating how they're an asset, how they could be an asset to your team.
Dude, I am picturing, like, I think we should do this where the military spouse who's about to go interview, I want you to have, I want them to have you in a hype video before they go to interview.
Let's
and
do
then
it.
I want to send the video of you just doing what we just did to that hiring manager and be like, yo, take a look.
That's my everyday. To be honest, Scott, that's what I do every day. Every single day, I'm like, hey, hiring manager, I have this epic military spouse I need you to consider. And I'll knock on that door as many times as I need to before it opens.
Well, I have a confession to make. On behalf of Vector Accelerator, we have not thought much or talked much or done much for military spouses. And as you're coming to understand what Vector Accelerator is and does, providing clarity, real short, quick way to help somebody figure out who they are, what they want, what kind of life they want to have. Like, one, I'd love for you to think about it, but two, do you have any thoughts? Like, do you have any advice for us as we start to consider military spouses?
Yeah, because, the service member is always going to, as much as you're focusing on them and their readiness, in the back of their mind, they're always going to be thinking about their family and their spouse and their readiness. I can't tell you how many times I've spoken to a service member and helped them with their transition that they've also said, hey, do you mind talking to my wife? Do you mind talking to my husband? Because they're a military spouse and they're really struggling. And I think you could really help them with their career. And so I think as you're looking at military spouses, really just understanding that they're the most diverse population that you're going to engage with in terms of skill sets, experience, education. And so one size doesn't fit all. Be curious and understand that you got to meet them where they're at and maybe have a more curated approach and just kind of have a more open mindset to what they need and where they're at, because you're going to get some military spouses that have maybe been out of the workforce for 10 years. Some of them that 6 months, maybe they just went back to school. Maybe they need flexible work location or flexible scheduling. And so I think as you're engaging, what the mistake that I've seen with a lot of organizations that are like, I want to support military spouses, is you can't put parameters around it and have it be a one size fit all approach. It really has to be something that's tangible and flexible to meet the needs of that individual because it's so different for every person.
Yeah. And that's, as you're saying that, I'm just realizing one of my favorite colleagues I've ever worked with, Casey Valenti, who helped start Vector Accelerator with us. She's a veteran as well, but most recently she's been a military spouse. And man, the things that she was able to accomplish with 3 kids and husband sometimes gone around the clock or on deployment. I'm getting emails from her at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and she's just crushing things constantly. It's like she's one of the most dependable people I've ever worked with. And you're helping me see that in a more significant way. I think it's just interesting. Sometimes you see things, I know things, but to actually like connect dots, that's the next level. And you're helping me do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I encourage anyone listening, anyone that's like curious on where to start, just start with a conversation. Military spouses love to share their story in terms of amplifying awareness of gaps that we have and where we can support. I've never met a military spouse that's like, man, I don't want to talk about it. It's they really want an opportunity to share their story, have you get to know them. So just put 15 minutes on your calendar and say, can we just meet for some virtual coffee? Could we just talk to tell me what's going on? What's going on in your world? What are you struggling with? What can I help you with? And they just want to be heard. They just want someone to give them an opportunity to share a little bit about themselves.
Well, Lacey, thank you. There's two big insights for me. One is obviously the military spouse that we're just talking about. And I'm really, truly grateful for you bringing that to me, to us. But second, I just really respect how, like, the steps you've taken to get involved and stay involved in the community, because it's you just make it very normal. You just volunteer the USO. You just go to hiring things. You just look for ways within your own world to offer resources. And I think as we're now almost on a daily basis hosting these live video Zoom calls with 500 plus veterans who are in transition, many of the conversations for them are around, will I, in my civilian life, find or rediscover purpose, life that matters, and making an impact. And some of them, I think, will admit and have admitted they feel like that's going to be part of their past, not a part of their future. And I think just your story and how you've tracked with the community, I want to share that with more veterans, because like just staying involved, getting involved, giving back, staying involved in the military community, like that's a very appealing thing to do, but it's also, you just make it very accessible. Like it's super normal to do that. So I don't want veterans to have to wonder or worry if they're going to have an opportunity to give back and serve and have a life of purpose. It's right there, but it's not necessarily so obvious. But you have a knack for doing it. Like you're just the kind of person who'll figure it out.
Yeah, 100%. And I think sometimes from some of the transitioning service members that I speak to, they're afraid to like get into an environment where maybe they'd be put on the spot to talk about something they're not ready to, or something that'll open up something they are not comfortable speaking about. But you can get involved in organizations. Like my dad is now an instructor for Guitars for Vets, an amazing organization that's nationwide. So that's like awesome. He went through the program because he loved music. He wanted to get connected to the veteran community. So through the Vet Center, he joined Guitars for Vets. T-Mobile is actually, we just got approved for a grant that will support 10 service members going through the program and graduating and getting guitars gifted to them as a part of their graduation. But my whole point is, like, whether it's music or art or go for a walk, like my dad goes on hikes with his veteran group every Friday or Saturday. And, you know, you don't have to do something on base. Like if you're not at a point where you're ready to be that involved, you need a certain degree of separation. Find a hobby, find something that you love to do, that you can do it with your fellow service members, veterans, you know, to stay involved in that community, because there's so many different points of intersection. It doesn't necessarily have to be like I'm volunteering on a base.
Right. Love it.
Give yourself grace and meet yourself where you're at.
Right. Well, Lacey, thank you, and stay tuned, because you're definitely challenging me and us to think about military spouses. So let's keep rolling up our sleeves and see what we can do.
I'm here for all of it.
Let's go.
Bring me in, coach. Let's go.
Thanks, Lacey.